Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the 2021 We Will Remember Memorial Vigil for people experiencing homelessness. I'm John Parvensky, the President and CEO of the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. This marks the 32nd year that we've come together as a community to remember those who have experienced homelessness and who have died in this past year. I've had the honor of giving voice and recognition to our beloved neighbors who have lived among us and whose lives have been taken much too soon. We do this on the longest night of the year as part of the National Homeless People's Memorial Day, joining hundreds of communities across the country, remembering those that have been lost. In previous years, we gathered in front of the City and County of Denver building on the first day of winter to read the names and to remember each person who has passed this past year. For the second year in a row, due to continuing COVID concerns, we are honoring those we have lost with the Luminary Memorial at the Vigil location in front of the City and County building in a safe and distant manner. The meaning nor the opportunity to honor our friends and loved ones has not changed from previous years, even if the times do not allow us to gather together. For too many of those who have passed away this year, this vigil will be the only memorial service that they will have. So we will remember those that have felt forgotten while they have lived among us and bring awareness to the growing issue of homelessness in our community. It is both our humble duty and honor to remember these individuals and these lives, and our great responsibility to ensure that these deaths reinforce the magnitude of homelessness that contributes to the early and often preventable deaths of too many of our neighbors. This year, we honor and mourn the lives of 269 people who have died on the streets of Metro Denver this year. Unfortunately, this is the most deaths that we have seen in any year that we have had a memorial. In addition to the huge toll that life on the streets takes amongst those experiencing it, those conditions that increase the risk of homelessness, mental illness, substance abuse, racial disparities, LGBTQ status, also leads to shortened life expectancy. Social isolation, economic hardship, and the lack of access to treatment and support only exacerbate this reality. We are relying on receiving the names of those who have passed away this year from the community of people serving the homeless in the Metro Denver area, our service providers and our partners. We do the best that we can in getting as many names as possible, but we know that some of the names are missing. We are deeply sorry if your friend or loved one's name was left off the list, but we'll take a moment at the end of the memorial service to have a moment of silence in their name. This year, we also want to recognize the loss of a fellow champion working with those experiencing homelessness, Fabian Olguin from the Denver Rescue Mission, who passed away last month. We have a luminary honoring Fabian at the vigil tonight, and our thoughts are with his loved ones and coworkers at the Denver Rescue Mission. There's been a lot of conversation around the increase in crime and violence in the Denver community. Tonight, I would like to remind us that all people experiencing homelessness are much more likely to be the victim of crimes and violence rather than those who are perpetrating it. So many of these deaths could have been prevented with the right resources and support. We know how to prevent these tragic losses. We know what works. We just need to bring it up to scale. The answer to solving homelessness is not criminalizing it, but rather providing supportive housing through a housing first approach. This year received results from the Denver Social Impact Bond that reinforces this, that investment in supportive housing can decrease police interactions and arrests, disrupt jail cycling, reduce costly emergency services, and reduce the use of emergency detox facilities. Investing in supportive housing is not only cost effective, but also can help prevent needless loss of life for those who are unhoused. Now, I've repeated this many times over the years, but I believe it bears repeating. As Mother Jones once said, we must pray for the dead, but we must fight like hell for the living. So tonight, as we remember our friends and those that we never knew, whose suffering serves as a heartbreak and a call to action, let us all recommit to our efforts of ending homelessness in our community with a renewed sense of urgency and determination. Let us dream of a day where every man, woman, and child has a safe place to call home, a place that they can thrive, a place that they can live with dignity and respect, a place called home.
Memorial concerning our hero's journey, at last coming home. In epitaph, don't send for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Let's reverently remember those who we loved, who have been lost, who died, who we miss. We've lost many again without compromise, who have all given their lives for the sake of the inequities of our unshackled liberty, to choose who is welcomed and who is not in the community. Who lived harsh lives on infirm ground, whose thirst for comfort fleetingly passed us by. Our lives are fragmented ebbs and apexes of trauma born and unbridled in tormented spirits throughout all of these lands. We are a people tormented by subterfuge for the purpose of screaming torrents rained upon these most courageous, vulnerable citizens and kin. Our nobility palpable in our hearts, in the rhythm of the beat syncopating in our holding of one another in a tight, limitless embrace. We live out our lives with a fierce love and will over our circumstances. We're all blessed by our fragile brothers and sisters, our family, whose desperate stares and raucous exhalations emanating from our mouths echoes this memorial to our spirits of how we must resonate within all of us, that we courageously make a promise that no matter how we must, we lift those lost this and every year upon each winter solstice and throughout the moments of our lives, that we lift up the memory of those who are lost, who have died with honor and grace, for their presence is eternal. Amen. Amen. Do we hear? Amen.
We will now begin the reading of the names of those that we've lost. We will remember each person and hear from fellow fighters working to end homelessness who read their names. Tonight we have with us Brother James Patrick Hall, the CEO of Rocky Mountain Refuge, Christina Carlson, the CEO of Urban Peak, Angel Hurtado, Senior Director of Volunteers of America, Stephanie Miller, CEO of the Delores Project, Brittany Melton-Hill, a CCH outreach worker, Brad Meuli, President and CEO of the Denver Rescue Mission. After each name is read, we invite you to say, "We will remember."
Mariano Amaro. Coke Andrew. Abby Angelo. Vernon Anthony. Nicole Archibek. Jesse Arroyo. Mark Austin. Paris Avila. Apolinar Bayon. Aaron Banks. Virginia Barella. DC Barker. Richard Barkley. Rachel Barusi. Julian Wolf Begay. Josephine Benelli. Linda Benson.
Soteria Black. Garen Bousseau. Esther Bolzinger. Almeda Boyd. Shayla Brady. McDonald Brandy. James Bryan. Mitchell Buck. John Ivory Bunting. Dylan Burton. Samuel Busby. Vincent Cabrera. Brynam Kane. Annie Calbruno. Erica Calderon. Kenneth John Campbell. Dwight Carlson. Ruth Carney. Christopher Carter. Alma Louise Castleberry Walker. Gerald Castro. Mary CDE Baca. Sherry Seepiga. Carrie Cherry. Casanova Christopher. Charles Claremont. Marcus Clark. Sherry Clay. Aaron Plecky. Ramona Cleveland. Joanna Clinton. Mike Cobb. Bobby Collins Jr. Daniel Cordova.
Alvin Cotton. Kawani Miene Cox. Jamie Daub. Teresa Davis. Michael Deal. Madison De Herrera. George Champ Delsey. William Denny. Terry DeCeresa. Ricky Dixon. Kearns Donald. Kennison Donald. Ronald Duran. Eileen Eagleman. Andrew Espinoza. Barbie Pinky Annie Ferris. Michael Falkenberry. Sherry Ferguson. Patrick Finn. Seraphin Finn. Allison Freeman. Jeffrey Frenches. Joseph Fullwood. William Gus Gaither. Timoteo Gama. Javier Gamboa. Richard Loco Garcia. Margaret Gathesha. Ricky Gibson. James Gilkey. Aaron Gilmer, Fred Gilmore, Maria L. Globsbach, Robert Gomez, Michael Goodlow,
Samuel Goolsby, Roger Graff Jr., Rhonda Gray, Herschel Greasom, Knapp Gregg, Richard Grieve, Gladys Grisier, Eddie Guerrero, Reed Megan Gully, Manuel Manny Gutierrez, Pat Harris, Brian Harris, Theodore Hayden, Oscar Henderson, Simon Jimenez Hernandez, Ricardo Herrera, Josh Hilton, Gregory Holyfield, Howard Hornick, Leroy Horse, Gerald Howe, Rowan Huffstedler, Valerie Imboden, David Iverson, Joshua Jackson, Coelho James, Rutsong James, Penny Jargon, Douglas Jaros, Stay Hulak Jeffrey, Jeffrey Jekyll, Gregory Jensen, Bianca Jimenez, Simon Jimenez Hernandez,
Loretta Johnson, Frank Johnson, Julie Johnson, Tadashi Johnson, Donnell L. Johnson, Carlson John, Rodney Jordan, Lee Joseph, Rhonda Journey, Christopher Kelly, Daniel Danny Kelly, Eddie Kirby, Richard Kleinhens, Timothy Kochelan, Kirk Kramer, Sky Lee, Martin Lennon, Jeremy Tennessee Leverett, Donna Lewis, Nathaniel Little, Ephraim Lifshitz, James Boston Logan, Kitsia Lopez, Florentina Luna, Joel Macklin, Jeremy Maniscalco, Juan Mares, John Mares, Jared Martin, James Martin, Lennon Martin, Lisa Martinez, Rudolph Martinez,
Albert D. Martinez, Richard Martinez, Anthony Popcorn Martinez, Kyle Madding, Robert McMahon, Michael Spiderhead McManus, Key Means, Kirk Melson, David Merritt Jr., David Miller, Berthinner Mills, Burnell Milton, Buck Mitchell, Felicia Monteves, Gary Moody, Christopher Morris, Felix Moronis, Forrest E. Motter, Tom Mukisa, Joseph Nedbalski, Joe Nagel, Stacy Neal, Wayne Norris, Rogelio Novoa,
Ambrose Nwokodi, Ambrose Nwokedi, James O'Connor, Elmo Officer, Sharika Chaos Og, Thomas Olis, Christopher Paris, Antoinette Hudson Paul, Jr., Donald Pierce, Morgan Peter, Kirk Peterson, John Phelps, Donald Pierce, Darren Pinkston, Eldonna Prairie, Thomas Purcell, Ahmad Richardson, Floyd Richardson, Camos Richardson, Kevin Richens, Michael Riggs, Rolando Rivas, Mary Riveria, Turner Robert, Ryden Robert, Gilbert Roberts, Willie Robinson, John Robeson, Graf Roger, Thomas Rojas, Anthony Romero, Carlotta Ross, Leah Ross, Timothy Rouse, Erica Rubio, Christian Ruddick, Mary Sayence, Benedito Benny Salas Jr., Javier Sanchez, Richard Sanchez, Bo Saunders, Elias Sawyer, Robert Sharton, Michael Shealy, Lamond Scruggs, Gertrude Birdie Seawalker, Orest Surwas, Brian Setley,
Michael Seymour, Verna Shaw, Michael Shepard, Aaron Siebers, Janetta Simmons, Christopher Skodman, Eugene Stanley, Timothy Starr, William Steffi, Anthonetta Stewart, Kenny Stilley, Thomas Stover, Cynthia Strange, Antonetta Stewart, Emma Sweets, Travis Tansky, Ryan Christopher Taylor, Stephen Taylor Jr., Daniel Teeter, Richard Thomas, Claude Thomas, William Thompson, Daniel Teek, Emerson Tinsley, Margarito Torres, Desiree Trujillo, William Matt Turner, Michael Turner,
Meuli Turturkia, Timothy Twiss, Dinah Utia, Edgar L. Vest, Reyes Bihim, Heather Webster, Owen Wheatley, Elliot Whiteshield, Michael Jesse Wickman, Devani Williams, Latasha Williams, Derek Yearout, Michael, Gilbert Roach, Ace, Stacy, Leroy shot with 2 arrows.
and our employee at the Denver Rescue Mission, Fabian Olguin.
Thank you again for joining us tonight to remember unhoused neighbors that we've lost this year. We'd like to take a moment of silence now to memorialize those whose lives were lost this year, but we were unable to honor and recognize because we do not know their names. So please say we will remember them as well, and shout out their names to yourselves and say we will remember. Thank you. I also want to thank our partners and fellow service providers for helping us put this event together, to helping us remember, and most importantly, for being there for people experiencing homelessness at the time of their greatest need. In closing, as we remember those that we've lost this past year, we also need to recognize that there are thousands of people experiencing homelessness in the Denver area tonight, on the streets and in our emergency shelters, whose health and livelihood are at risk. We thank you for joining us tonight to help us remember. Let us never forget them, and let us never give up fighting to end homelessness. Thank you and good night.